The following program is sponsored by CBN.
Before you exchange the candies and flowers, hear the real story behind the holiday.
History became legend and legend became myth.
See how one man defied an empire.
Rome at this point in time was really a cesspool of immoral behavior.
And taught the world about true love.
And to become a witness of what enduring love could look like.
Meet the real St. Valentine.
We should celebrate what true sacrificial love looks like in a broken world.
On today's 700 Club.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a lot of things for you today. We welcome you to this edition of the 700 Club. I want to tell you something about history, though. 40 years ago, the Shah of Iran was a strong American ally. He was essentially our friend in the Middle East. But he had a secret police called Sabak that were pretty repressive in terms of his people. So he's in touch with Jimmy Carter, our president, and he calls him and he says, "Mr. President, the people are rioting. What should I do?" And what does Mr. Carter say? "We don't get involved in the internal affairs of other nations." And at that point, this strange cleric, the Ayatollah Khomeini, is brought in from Europe and established the Iranian state, and he became a dictator. He was a dictator of the mullahs, the high priest, and Iran has been our enemy ever since. But we sold out the Shah and left him hanging, and then he finally was able to get some medical attention in the United States, and the Iranians were complaining about that. But he was our close and dear ally, and our policy can make terrible differences if it's wrong. And we've got so many things that we've done along the way that are just shocking, and that was one of them. So we're paying the price. Now, our Vice President and the Secretary of State are over in Europe trying to persuade our allies to come along with us against Iran to make sure those sanctions are put in place. And while this is going on, a shocking development has taken place. There was an Air Force officer who was in counterintelligence who was privy to some of the deepest secrets of our United States government, and she has defected to Iran, and she has left America and gone over to Iran. And she is apparently imperiling the lives of hundreds of her fellow workers. I mean, she has got the goods on all the secret people in behind the scenes in Iran, and they will be subject to being executed. Now, that's going on. Now, at the same time, we've got this drama in Washington about the government. And so Congress does what Congress always does. They keep a Christmas tree and they have a bill, and instead of a few pages to say, well, here's so much money for the government, it's 1,000 pages. The Obamacare was 2,300 pages. Nancy Pelosi says we've got to pass it so we can understand what's in it. Well, the president's being asked to sign this thing, and he said, I don't know, what landmines are in the thing. But some lawmakers are concerned they don't know what they're voting for, but they're being asked to vote quickly and send the bill to the president.
Well, the president wants to vet the bill for anything that's in there that he might not be aware of. All of this as the clock ticks away toward Friday night's deadline to keep the government open. CBN's Jenna Browder has the details on what we know so far.
Lawmakers put the final touches on the bill early this morning, but that leaves little time for them to review it before tonight's vote. And some are not happy about it. Congressman Mike Johnson calls it absurd since the bill is more than 1,000 pages long. And if it gets to the president's desk,
it's hard to say definitively whether or not the president's going to sign it until we know everything that's in it.
What we do know about the bill, it includes nearly $1.4 billion for the wall, enough for about 55 miles. That is significantly less than the president's original demand, but it also includes a $1.7 billion increase to DHS funding for things like technology at ports of entry, customs officers, and humanitarian aid. The deal will also reduce ICE detention beds from about 50 to 40,000. Trump isn't happy by the sounds of it, but lawmakers like Senator Lindsey Graham are urging him to take the deal and consider it a down payment.
I think the president's inclined to accept the agreement, move on, and try to find money elsewhere, and most likely declare an emergency.
Trump says he doesn't want to see another shutdown.
I don't want to see a shutdown. Shutdown would be a terrible thing.
CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson says everyone wants to see a deal passed, and a shutdown is not expected.
I would say right now it's one step above cautious optimism. You never know what will happen with President Trump, but people feel pretty good that we're going to avoid another government shutdown.
And not included in the bill is a deal for DACA dreamers. President Trump has until midnight Friday to avoid another government shutdown. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
So, you know, the president's going to have to sign that. As a responsible leader, he cannot shut the government down. The consequences are just so pervasive. You know, it affects like Regent University in terms of students and scholarships. It affects our little hotel in terms of guest bookings. And if this is a small microcosm of what it's doing to the nation, and all those hundreds of thousands of federal workers, they've got to get paid. I mean, you cannot do that. But when I hear people making fun of the president because he's doing his job, it just makes me sick in my stomach because he's going to get the last laugh. He is becoming a very responsible leader, and I'm delighted to see the initiatives he's taking. And the last thing we need to do is to make fun of the fact that he's acting responsibly and is going to make the best agreement he can get, and he's going to find the money from some other source to get this job done. But why does he want the wall? He wants it to protect America. Why would people make fun of him for that? Well, in other news, as I said earlier, world leaders are gathering to address the global threat being posed by Iran. John Jessup has more on that from our CBN News Bureau in Washington.
That's right, Pat. Vice President Mike Pence is calling on Europe to join America in pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal. He spoke at an international summit with world leaders today, aiming to push back against Iran's growing threat to the Middle East and the world, even as the Islamic Republic observes a major milestone. Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem.
40 years after Iran became an Islamic Republic, the world is standing up to this major global threat. Vice President Mike Pence and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo joined other world powers to confront Iran's growing influence in a major conference. Pompeo says there's no peace without confronting Iran.
You can't achieve peace and stability in the Middle East without confronting Iran. It's just not possible. They're a malign influence in Lebanon, in Yemen, in Syria, and Iraq.
Just this week, Iran threatened to level Tel Aviv. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu responded, that would be the end of the Islamic Republic.
If this regime makes the awful mistake of trying to destroy Tel Aviv and Haifa, it will not succeed. This would be the last anniversary of the revolution that they celebrate. They should take this into account.
Iran at first dismissed the conference, but when a deadly terror attack killed dozens of Iran's Revolutionary Guards, the regime suggested the world powers are behind it. Is it no coincidence that Iran is hit by terror on the very day that Warsaw Circus begins? Netanyahu said the conference marked a first, with Israel standing alongside its Arab neighbors in the Middle East.
A historical turning point. An Israeli prime minister and the foreign ministers of the leading Arab countries stood together and spoke with unusual force, clarity, and unity against the common threat of the Iranian regime.
40 years ago, the world was introduced to the menacing stare of the Ayatollah Khomeini. His Iranian revolution ousted the Shah of Iran, a U.S. ally, and he put his stamp on American history with the hostage crisis that lasted more than a year. Its leaders then began to purge the country of Western influence and set Iran on a path of expansion and Islamist terror. During the revolution, the U.S. was dubbed the Great Satan by the ruling mullahs. Still, most of their hatred is reserved for the country they call the Little Satan, Israel. For 4 decades, they have vowed to wipe it off the map.
I think a clash is inevitable.
Middle East expert Michael Widlansky says, according to Israeli military sources, Iran has armed Hezbollah in Lebanon with enough missiles to bombard all of Israel for weeks.
Israel could face every day not 10 rockets, not 100 rockets, but 2,500 rocket attacks every day over a period of 3 weeks.
And that doesn't take into account Iran's nuclear program. In last year's UN address, Netanyahu exposed a secret nuclear site with 300 tons of nuclear material.
Now, I also have a message today for the tyrants of Tehran. Israel will never let a regime that calls for our destruction to develop nuclear weapons. Not now, not in 10 years, not ever.
While Widlansky believes Israel can take care of itself, he's concerned if the mullahs aren't stopped, their grand design could swallow up the region.
The Iranians want Shia Islam to be the face of Islam. That means they want to go after all their neighbors and project their force all the way to the Mediterranean and to the Atlantic.
Those attending the conference in Poland want to stop Iran's expansion in the Middle East and blunt the leading sponsor of terror in the world. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thanks, Chris. The Justice Department has charged a former American Air Force officer with spying for Iran. 39-year-old Monica Witt, a former counterintelligence officer, is charged with turning over highly classified secrets to the Islamic Republic and working with Iranian hackers to target undercover agents.
She blew the cover of all her counterintelligence colleagues and put them in mortal danger.
Now, Witt defected to Iran in 2013. She also threatened to go public with other information, citing former CIA employee Edward Snowden as an example. And Pat, of course, in 2013, Snowden leaked a classified material from the National Security Agency.
You know, what I understand is right now we do have a ability to send false signals into their nuclear program. We had what was called Stuxnet that was in there as they were doing some of those centrifuges, but we also have other ways of confusing what they're doing. And I think our NSA is very capable of cyber terrorism or cyber warfare, I think the word would be, against Iran. But they are a serious threat. And those people have decided that if the Mahdi is going to come back, that there will be global devastation before he comes, and that the few of the faithful will restore the world. So the whole idea of a nuclear holocaust preceding the return of the Mahdi goes right along with their theology. And they are very, very dangerous. And they keep making threats against Israel. And Netanyahu said, well, we'll never permit them to have a nuclear weapon. The Iranian deal that was set out by the Obama administration gave them a pathway to having nuclear weapons. And Trump got out of that deal. He said, no way are they going to do it. Netanyahu says the same thing. But they cannot be nuclear armed because their theology calls for major destruction before the return of this 12th Imam, the Mahdi. And so we may have to take action. You can't let this thing just fester. And the fact that one of our intelligence agents has defected to Iran, you just say, what kind of thing was going on in that woman's mind to turn against the United States in favor of an oppressive, theocratic regime that punishes its own people? John?
Pat, a federal judge says former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort lied to investigators and a grand jury in the Russia probe. The judge ruled there is evidence Manafort lied about conversations with an associate who has ties to Russian intelligence. Prosecutors say those discussions are at the heart of Robert Mueller's investigation into whether the Trump campaign colluded with Russia. Manafort is in jail, set to be sentenced next month. The judge's decision could hurt Manafort's chances of getting a reduced sentence. Well, a growing number of high school and middle school students are using tobacco products again. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says the most likely reason is the boom in vaping or e-cigarettes. The CDC's Brian King says we were making progress, and now you have the introduction of a product that is heavily popular among youth that has completely erased that progress. Vaping is basically inhaling vapor from an electronic cigarette, simulating the experience of smoking. The CDC found vaping is a gateway to regular cigarette smoking, and almost 500,000 people die each year from smoking. Pat?
Well, you know, I have suggested a long time ago, you know, we subsidize tobacco. The United States government pays money to these tobacco farmers. And the time has come when we outlaw cigarettes entirely. And as I have said on this program a long time ago, set up some kind of a tax break so that cigarette companies can find some alternate means of making money and have something else for the farmers and give them an alternate so that they can have something else. You don't take away all their income and then give them nothing. But I think we can do something to them, for them, and we ought to outlaw that. But to think that we're subsidizing this thing that is killing people year after year after year after year, and there's no question that cigarette smoking, that the results are just horrendous.
Have you ever driven behind someone who's vaping in the car in front of you?
Oh, no.
You think the car's on fire. I mean,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable.
Well, some of those things have blown up, you know, those cigarettes have blown up in people's faces. So, anyway. All right, what's next?
Well, up next, find the fountain of youth in a bowl of bone broth. Dr. Josh Axe talks about the amazing health benefits of collagen when we come back.
Well, next guest is just a fountain of information. He's unbelievable in his expanse of his knowledge. He's got another book out called The Keto Diet, and all kinds of people are taking the keto diet, Dr. Josh Axe. And he also has some various things out about collagen. So Laurie Johnson has got an update on that one, and then we'll meet Dr. Axe.
Collagen, the most abundant protein in our bodies, makes our skin firm. Collagen is also the glue that helps hold the body together and protects our digestive tract. As we age, however, our bodies produce less collagen, which can lead to wrinkled skin, joint problems, a leaky gut, and more. We deplete collagen even more with a high-sugar diet, smoking, and too much sun. Dr. Josh Axe, who founded one of the world's most popular natural health websites, says the good news is we can put back the collagen by consuming bone broth, other healthy foods, and supplements.
Well, Dr. Josh Axe is going to talk about many health benefits. He's just encyclopedic in his knowledge. And Josh, it's good to have you. Tell us about this collagen stuff. What is it about collagen that's so important?
Well, awesome. Well, thanks for having me, Pat. Well, you know, collagen is pretty amazing that 30% of our entire body's protein is made up of collagen.
Okay.
Yet most people aren't getting collagen in their diet. But the thing about collagen is it's incredible for your skin, hair, and nails.
All right.
Actually, there's more collagen in your bones than calcium. And collagen is also critical for the health of our gut and our joints. And so if somebody is looking to transform the health of their gut, transform the health of their skin, their hair, and also their joints, collagen is something they should be getting every single day in their diet.
Well, is there a deficit of collagen in the average person?
There is. You know, you look over in Asia, they consume a lot of broth, things like fish broth. In areas around the world, our ancient ancestors all drank bone broth. You know, there are stories in the Bible about, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob drinking soups and broth. And we should be getting broth every single day. And people, by just either making bone broth at home, as people have done for a long time, things like chicken broth, or by taking a multi-collagen protein or a bone broth supplement, either way, they're getting more collagen in their diets. And people will notice, in fact, my sister started taking collagen.
Yeah.
She noticed her hair got thicker, her nails got stronger, some of the fine lines in skin, she noticed changes in her appearance. And a lot of people notice changes in their gut health and their joints too.
What about the connective tissues in your joints? Is that what the collagen is? I mean, you know, go ahead.
Yeah, you're 100% right. In fact, 90% of our ligaments, tendons, and connective tissue are made up of collagen. So, Pat, I see this a lot of times. Now, someone like you, you've aged so well. You know, I know you're, you look so young for your age, and someone was telling me you horseback ride and all these things. I was so impressed. And, a big reason for that is when we get collagen, it supports our ligaments and tendons long term. Now, most people today are getting all their protein from things like just chicken breast or a steak, but they don't realize that getting collagen in their diet by consuming meat, they're not necessarily supporting their ligaments and tendons, but by consuming collagen, they're now supporting their ligaments, their tendons, all of their connective tissue. So people notice a big difference in their joints.
You know, Lori talks about chicken feet. She boils chicken feet and then has something. How do you get collagen out of chicken feet?
Yeah, so chicken feet are made up, and Lori put these nice bones here.
Yeah, all right.
So the bones and chicken feet is the area of the animal that's the highest in collagen.
Okay.
So when you put them, let's say, in a crock pot and simmer them, all the collagen comes out of the ligaments and tendons and then becomes part of the liquid. So then when you're drinking broth, you're getting a very absorbable form of collagen.
And that, well, there's, you've got those powders. Do anybody, have you had anybody have a bad reaction to them, or is it all pretty benign?
No, I've never had anybody have a bad reaction. In fact, when people have taken, things like multi-collagen protein, and by the way, when you're getting collagen, just like you want a multivitamin, you ideally want to get multiple types of collagen in your diet, because your ligaments and tendons are made up of type 2 collagen, but your skin, hair, nails, and bones are made up of type 1 and 3 collagen. So we've had people say they've noticed literally a complete transformation in their overall gut, in their joints, especially people just saying they could not believe what it did for their skin, because 90% of your skin is also made up of collagen.
90% of your skin?
90%.
And your skin's your biggest
organ.
Organ, yeah.
Yeah. Man, you're smart. You know a lot about the health stuff. So.
Yeah, I've been at it for years. All right. Well, let's turn the page. You've got the most popular diet, keto. It's just sweeping the country, keto diet. And you came up, is this your deal? I mean, keto?
It is. This is my brand new book. It's just coming out here. And yeah, the book, here's the thing, Pat. The keto diet's a really popular diet, but there's a right and a wrong way to do keto.
There was a man, was it Solomon, a few years ago, maybe like 20, 30 years ago, that had this, it told you to get into ketosis. And I did that stuff, and boy, all of a sudden my joints were just aching. It was loaded up with all this ash.
Yeah, one of the issues is that if somebody doesn't follow the keto diet the right way, and let's say they're following the keto diet, but they're just eating meat and then just maybe some processed oils, that's going to cause inflammation. What I've done in my book is I've laid out a keto diet that also boosts collagen in your body. And so this diet really allows people to reduce inflammation. It allows them to boost their metabolism to lose weight very quickly. Also, it balances the hormone insulin, which helps with blood sugar, which also helps with weight loss, and also supports them reversing disease. So the book has a 30-day plan, 80 recipes, including keto pancakes, keto cookies, but doing it the healthy way.
I've noticed one chapter in here about polycystic ovary syndrome.
Yes.
And most people don't know what that is. What is it?
Yeah, so many women today, it's kind of surprising how many struggle with hormone imbalance and things like fibroids and ovarian cysts. What they've shown through a study is that by following a keto diet, it can help improve and get rid of ovarian cysts, can also help with hot flashes, can help with thyroid, adrenal issues, but it helps balance hormones, because when you get rid of the sugar and the grains, and you consume healthy fats, it actually balances your hormones. And so, you know, we have a whole chapter in the book on how to balance your hormones with keto as well.
Well, now, exactly what would you do to get onto the keto diet? What does somebody should do on that?
That's a great question. So on the keto diet, it's consuming a lot of fat, moderate protein, and low carbohydrates, but doing it in a healing fashion where you're eating a lot of vegetables, a lot of healthy fats like avocado and coconut. But you want about 70% fat, around 20 to 25% protein, and 5 to 10% carbs.
Well, you don't want to eat animal fat, do you?
No, again, a small amount's okay, but yeah, you want to do mostly avocados, coconut, almonds, olive oil. We want to get a lot of those fats as I lay out there in my book.
Well, what about eggs and things like that? Are they healthy?
Yeah, eggs are great. Now, the big thing is you want to buy pasture-raised eggs, not the conventional. In fact, you ever notice when you crack open an egg, if it's a light yellow yolk, it's not very nutrient-dense, but if it's that orange color, it means it's got more omega-3 fats, beta-carotene, vitamin E. So if you're doing those good organic eggs, eggs are a great form of healthy fat.
All right. Well, this is it for weight loss, or this is for healthy? This is for everything.
So I would say my new book, Keto Diet, is for people that want to reverse disease, fight autoimmune disease, people that want to boost their brain health, but also when you get into ketosis, just like in fasting, it's the fastest way to lose weight. Your body gets in its fat burning zone, so your body burns fat for energy. But you know, when people get rid of the bad body fat, it actually eliminates the risk of diabetes, heart disease, cancer, and other diseases as well.
But you've got a lot of fasting in here. I mean, the idea is, I mean, it used to be you wanted a big hearty breakfast, but this is something else.
Yeah, you know, as part of the diet too, we recommend, you know, doing more liquids, things like that. Even veggie juice we recommend as part of the book. Herbal teas like green tea, even some coffee, you know, is fine in small amounts because of the antioxidants. But we lay out that in the book there as well.
Well, now, so you start out and you wake up and it's 7 in the morning. What do you do with this keto diet?
Yeah, I think ideally people would do what I call a keto collagen smoothie. So combining both things we talked about, collagen and keto. So to get collagen, doing 1 scoop of a bone broth protein or a multi-collagen protein, doing half a cup of blueberries, 1 cup of coconut or almond milk, which is full of healthy fats, and then about a half an avocado or some almond butter for some more of those healthy fats. But that's a keto collagen smoothie, and it actually tastes really, really good.
But you can take an avocado. I mean, people used to say, I mean, these are fattening, you shouldn't eat things like that, but avocados are really good.
They are. You know, avocados, similar to olive oil, are full of those healthy fats, and that's the whole thing. Our body, every cell in our body is made up of fat, so we want to be getting healthy. You know, that old low-fat diet craze? Yeah. That just wasn't good for us because we should be getting the healthier fats.
Well, practically all these things is low fat, low fat, low fat, and it's high. It's been low fat, high carbs, and they've got a pyramid. The government puts out that pyramid. Talk about that.
Yeah, you know, the government pyramid is like 60 to 70% of your diet's carbs, and then everybody started getting diabetes and gaining weight because of the government food pyramid. Versus if you look at what our ancient ancestors ate and the diet they ate in the Bible, they were consuming a lot of wild-caught meat, a lot of vegetables they'd grown, things like berries. So they weren't consuming 70% carbs. They were probably consuming about 30 to 40% carbs. And also they were practicing fasting. You know, a lot in the Bible they talk about fasting, which really supports your body also getting into ketosis. So the only diets where you get into ketosis is with your fasting or if you're on a keto diet, but doing it the right way.
Well, now, the berries are okay. I mean, what about the other kind of fruit? Is that good or bad?
You know, if somebody's on a keto diet, doing 1 serving of berries a day is good because berries are the highest in antioxidants, highest in fiber, and lowest in sugar. So berries are the best of fruits. So when somebody's on a keto diet, they want to stick with that. But then after they get off keto, I think for most people, all fruits in general can be beneficial. Unless they're on keto, they want to stick with berries.
Well, now, how about steaks and things like that? Is that kind of animal fat good for you or bad for you?
Again, here's the truth. So here's what I say. It's you are what you eat what they ate. So if cows are eating grains, which they're not meant to, they become full of omega-6 fats, which are inflammatory. If cows are grass-fed, feeding in pasture, Their tissues are full of more omega-3 fats, so that's going to reduce inflammation. So things like wild-caught salmon and grass-fed beef, those are the good meats where conventional meat and dairy products, because they have a lot of steroids and hormones, those aren't so good.
Well, where do you get grass-fed beef? I mean, is that available?
Yeah, grass-fed beef, Whole Foods Market carries it. Actually, a lot of grocery stores, Kroger, Publix, a lot of people now are, these grocery stores are realizing people like me and you who care about their health, like we want real healthy food. And so more and more stores are carrying grass-fed meat now. In fact, people would probably be surprised that how many even conventional grocery stores carry it.
Really? Grass-fed and is that free-range chicken? Is that the mantra?
100%. When you're buying chicken, you want to look for organic and free-range. You're right.
Okay, all right. And the eggs, they're cage-free eggs. Is that what they call them?
Yep, cage-free eggs. That's one of the other things about eggs is that actually, if you ever crack open an egg, there's a thin line in there. Some eggs contain a small amount of collagen. Now, we do want to take things like a multi-collagen supplement or make bone broth ourselves, but there's actually a little collagen in there too.
So you keep everybody healthy. I guess I'm going along pretty well. About 1 week from now, I'm going to be 89, so I guess I'm still hanging in.
You're doing great. I'm so impressed with you and your health. So impressed.
Well, Josh, thank you for these books, and thank you for the work you're doing. And this is Keto Diet, ladies and gentlemen. This is available wherever books are sold, and all this bone broth that they've got from ancient nutrition, and he also has those essential oils. We haven't got time to talk about those, but thank you so much for being here. God bless you.
Hey, thanks for having me, Pat. God bless you. Thank you.
Josh Axe, ladies and gentlemen, the keto diet and the collagen for the healthy skin, nails, hair, and joints. Okay. Up next, Terry, what you got?
Well, discover the true meaning of Valentine's Day and why it's not really about romance.
It should be a day where we celebrate the power of true love to change our world. It is a Christian holiday.
Meet the real Saint Valentine and hear how a note he signed led to the practice of sending Valentines. Valentine's Day. Well, some people love it and others dread it. Either way, most people think of it as a celebration of romance, punctuated by flowers, candy, cards. But in reality, Valentine's Day is rooted in something entirely different.
For many people, Valentine's Day is all about romance.
If you ask the person in the street, what does Valentine's Day mean to you? All it means is heart-shaped box of chocolates and a nice dinner with your beloved and sending cards and so forth. And then if they did know about a St. Valentine, they probably wouldn't realize that he was a priest in the late 3rd century in Rome who was actually martyred for the faith. Very often legends will develop from real facts. There's that little phrase in J.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings where he says, history became legend and legend became myth.
The legend of St. Valentine is a story that is rooted in fact.
There are 3 stories surrounding him, and they all agree on a number of issues. It seemed that he was born in 226 in a tiny little city called Terni in Umbria in Italy, and that he was either a priest or a bishop. Valentine apparently lived during the reign of the Emperor Claudius II. He's sometimes referred to as Claudius Gothicus. Now, this emperor did not reign for very long, maybe a year and a half. Rome at this point in time was really a cesspool of immoral behavior. Pedophilia was rife. Sexual promiscuity was rife. And one of the great witnesses of the early church is that they stood up for the value of a godly marriage, where sexuality was channeled into its God-given boundaries, and it would become a witness of what enduring love could look like.
During his reign, Claudius issued an edict that made marriage illegal.
There was an invasion of Goths towards Rome, and they needed a lot of people to go to war. And it seemed that the rule was that once you were married, you were given freedom not to go to war. And Valentine would not only convert the people, but secretly marry them so that they could indeed stay at home.
Valentine was arrested and brought to Rome. While he was being held captive, he presented the gospel to his jailer, the judge Asterius.
So the judge said to him, well, if this indeed is true, I want you to prove it. And he brought one of his adopted daughters, who happened to be blind, the one legend says. And what happened is that Valentinus, or Valentine here, laid his hands upon this girl, and she was healed immediately.
Another legend says that before he was executed, he left a note for the girl signed, "Your Valentine." Some say this led to the practice of sending Valentines on February 14th, the day he was beheaded.
All the legends seem to agree that Valentine was martyred on the 14th of February in 269.
Therefore, that was the day associated with him when the church would celebrate and thank God for his life.
So Valentine's Day didn't start out as a romantic holiday.
We do need to recognize that this day, the 14th of February, was already connected with Valentine from the 4th century, already from that time onward. And right from the beginning, this celebration had more to do than just a celebration of romantic love. And the church's commitment to Valentine to honor this example of Christian marriage and sacrifice and martyrdom and the healing of other people and the spread of the gospel was from the beginning a commitment to what Christian marriage could be like in our world and the message that it brings to a broken world.
Valentine's Day represents more than flowers and candy. It's about what's in our hearts and the heart of Christ.
When we see those hearts on Valentine's Day, we can remember that that heart also has some connections back to the heart of Jesus and to God's love for us. And we can remember that the source of all love and the source of self-sacrifice and love for each other is rooted in God's love and in the witness that St. Valentine actually made for that love.
For Christians, marriage is more than just a union between a man and a woman. For Christians, marriage is a holy parable of the love of Christ towards his church. It's a visible sermon about what holiness and purity could look like in our lives. We should celebrate what true sacrificial love looks like in a broken world. And ultimately, it should be a day that we celebrate the commitment of Christ who gave his life for his church. It should be a day of evangelism. It should be a day where we celebrate the power of true love to change our world. It is a Christian holiday.
Well, that puts a different perspective on it, doesn't it? If you're single on Valentine's Day, I want to encourage you to go to cbn.com/unhooked and sign up for a free devotional. In this 40-day devotional, you're going to find answers to sex, dating, and more with exclusive content from our relationship experts. You can also get it by calling 1-800-700-7000. Just ask for our free Unhooked devotional. And one more thing, we invite you to watch our 1-hour special called Unhooked, Holy in the Hookup World. It airs tonight on Valentine's Day at 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. Eastern on our CBN News Channel. If you'd like to find out more, go to cbnnewschannel.com. But the devotional is free, and you can get it by the phone call or online.
Unhooked.
So
that's a good
great
one.
opportunity, yes.
For the hookup generation, unhooked. Okay.
That's exactly right.
All right, what else we got?
Well, still ahead, we've got your questions and some honest answers. Cynthia says, our Virginia governor says that he's a doctor, but he would kill babies after they're born. How can we become advocates for these babies? Pat will tackle that question and more of your email. That's later on today's show.
Welcome back to Washington for this CBN News break. Actor Chris Pratt is responding to critics attacking his church's biblical beliefs about sexuality. Pratt recently appeared on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert and shared his experience participating in the Daniel fast. That led LGBTQ actress Ellen Page to criticize him for going to a church that she said is, quote, infamously anti-LGBTQ, writing, if you're a famous actor and you belong to an organization that hates a certain group of people, don't be surprised if someone simply wonders why it's not addressed. Being anti-LGBTQ is wrong. There aren't two sides. The damage it causes is severe. Full stop. sending love to all. Pratt responded on Instagram that his church, quote, opens their doors to absolutely everyone. Well, new Bible translation technology is helping spread the gospel faster than ever. For more than 70 years, Wycliffe Bible Translators has worked to give people the Word of God in their own language. It took 67 years to complete the first 500 Bibles. The second 500 took only 17 years. Now, updated software for smartphones called Paratext Lite will speed the process even more. The software can run on a digital tablet or phone, enabling translators to upload and update their work more quickly. Well, you can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com. Pat and Terry will be back with more of the 700 Club right after this.
Kenya could never skip or run with her friends. Sometimes she'd collapse simply walking. That's because she was born with a heart defect, and her parents had no way to pay for the surgery that she desperately needed.
To play with her sister and friends, but she was only permitted to do things that required minimal physical effort because of a heart problem she's had since birth.
We try to make her understand that her heart condition puts her at risk. That's why we forbid her from doing any intense activity.
Sometimes a simple walk would cause Kenya to faint.
She got sick very often. She also got pneumonia because of her condition. We had to wake up several times every night to check on her.
Kenya's dad and mom are pastors in El Salvador, which meant their income was barely enough for food and medicine. Surgery to repair Kenya's heart was not possible.
God is in control. He comforts us and strengthens us, especially during these scary times.
When Operation Blessing learned about Kenya, we arranged for her and some other kids with heart problems to travel to another city for surgery. Kenya's operation was a success. And just a few weeks after surgery, she showed us what she was able to do.
Operation Blessing has been a great blessing to our Kenya, who has now recovered and is growing up in every way. Thank you, and God bless you.
Isn't it wonderful to know that you can make that kind of a difference in the life of a child? That was an entire busload of kids that were going. We were telling you Kenya's story. All of those children were able to have heart surgery. We say thank you, 700 Club members. You are bringing life and hope and a future to these people. And that's just one of the things you do when you're a 700 Club member. It's why we ask all of you to join with the rest of us. We're out to touch the world with the love of Christ to make a very practical difference in the needs that people are facing day to day. 65 cents a day, $20 a month makes you a 700 Club member. You do that by joining our toll-free number. It's 1-800-700-7000. Call now. Just say you want to join. And by the way, when you do, we want to be saying thank you to you by sending you Pat's latest teaching. It's a DVD teaching on the I wills of God from the Psalms, and you're going to love this. I mean, it's filled with the Word of God, His promises to you and me as believers, amazing stories, testimonies of God's faithfulness. In fact, this is Peggy. She lives in Lebanon, Tennessee. She's seen the DVD, and she says, my husband and I loved the I Wills of God DVD and claimed Psalm 91 daily for our family, friends, and loved ones. What great promises from our Heavenly Father if we'll just trust Him and turn all of our problems and fears over to Him. Peggy is absolutely right, and the DVD is yours when you call right now and say you want to join the 700 Club.
Amen.
Absolutely.
All right.
Up next, we've got your email. Kay says, my 18-year-old son has struggled with OCD since he was 9. As Christians, how should we approach this mental health issue? Your questions and some honest answers coming up. Well, we want to answer some of the email questions you've sent in. And Pat, this first one comes from Cynthia, who says, our Virginia governor says that he's a doctor and understands about healing, but he would kill babies after they're born. I believe former U.S. Surgeon General and pediatric surgeon Dr. C. Everett Koop once told a nurse to become, quote, the baby's advocate. How do you think we can become advocates for these babies?
Well, I think the biggest thing you've got to do is let your voice be heard. You know, it's interesting that even the Democrats, as I say, are running away from what Governor Northam did. I mean, this is just horrible. This baby, what he says is, if there's an abortion and the mother gives birth anyhow to a child, then you keep the child comfortable before you decide whether you'll kill it or not. Yeah. That is infanticide. And there's no possibility of saying, well, it's health of mother or anything like that. I mean, it is pure and simple infanticide. And somebody who practices infanticide should not be a governor, should not be a senator, should not be a congressman, and certainly should not be president. I mean, this is something we don't tolerate as a society. And so what should you do about it? Well, you can let your voice be heard, and the last thing you ought to do is vote for them. Mm-hmm. All right, what?
This is Kay, who says, my 18-year-old son is struggling with a form of OCD called scrupulosity. He has obsessive thoughts and doubts about religion and everything he's ever believed about his Christian faith. He's been raised in a loving Christian home, and this is very troubling to him. He's struggled with obsessive-compulsive disorder since he was 9 years old, but it's recently changed from issues with contamination to this scrupulosity. As Christians, how should we approach this mental health issue? Please talk more about mental health issues and anxiety and how we as Christians can help our children who are struggling with these issues.
Well, there's certain things that you can do. Now, some of these things, mental disorders, they're drugs that are very helpful, but there is a type of therapy where there's behavior modification therapy. You take that child and you say, okay, you think that there's dust in the corner or something. Now let's examine that dust and let's talk about it and see something about that, et cetera. And as they begin to face these things, it can change their perception. Now, you say, how do we do that? Well, we at Regent, for example, University, have a wonderful school of psychology, and we have degrees. People can get a doctorate in psychology, and they learn how to help people. But, you know, we need to band together and not just cast these people aside. But there is behavior modification that can be done. Whether that child is too far gone, I don't know, because I don't know him. But nevertheless, there is behavior modification therapy for people who have excessive fear. They have that idea that everybody's against them, they all hate me and I'm no good, that sort of thing. It can be solved if they confront the problem and talk about it. Okay.
Okay, this is Zach, who says, hi, Pat. I witnessed a bully bullying my friend who's mentally ill. The teacher saw everything that was happening and said this was a battle I couldn't win due to the bully being unstable. I would like to hear your opinion on what happened to some school teachers not standing up for other students. Do you think certain teachers became wimps? What happened to these schools? Why are innocent students getting in trouble while the jerks get away with things?
Well, you're asking, you got the answer to your question. Those teachers were in the wrong. They need to deal with these bullies, and don't tell me the bully's a little bit nuts too, so I'm not going to deal with him. I mean, they need to be brought before the principal. They need to be disciplined, and there's no question about it. And why a teacher would mollycoddle somebody like that?
But, you know, don't you think it's switched in our culture today? When I was a kid growing up, if a teacher had an issue with me about anything, my parents presumed the teacher was right.
That's right.
They had some authority in the classroom.
Now the teachers get sued. I mean, it's just terrible, the situation we've got. But I've just gotten a book that our head of our psychology department sent me about the coddling of our young people. Mm-hmm. And they are now kept from any kind of hurt. They won't, nobody, they've got to have safe spaces where they can't hear somebody that they disagree with them because their little egos are so sensitive. I mean, the whole thing is just crazy. Children need to be exposed to danger. They need to be allowed to roughhouse and you know, fall and dig in the dirt and all the rest of it. But on a thing like that, teachers need to get involved. I mean, don't tell me that bully's a little crazy so I can't deal with him. Of course you can. You grab the little fellow with the scruff of the neck and take him to the principal's office and say, you can't get away with that. And if you do, we're going to throw you out of school. Yeah. And all of a sudden, people get the message, all right?
Yeah, this is Mac, who says, I need prayer. I'm about to face a judge. I know God's bigger than life, but why do I feel like I'm so far out of reach? What do I do to face this battle?
Well, what you do is recognize you're a child of God. Read the Word. You know, I bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless His holy name, who forgives all their iniquities and heals all your diseases. Trust the Lord with all your heart. And you're going to face a judge because apparently you did something wrong. So what you need to do is recognize you're a child of God, assert your privileges, and whatever you do, a man shall eat good by the fruit of his lips. Speak positively. Today I'm going to be victorious in the court because God Almighty is giving me favor. Speak those words and it'll come to pass. You'll have the fruit of your lips. Well, today's Power Minute is from 1 Corinthians. And now abide faith, hope, and love, these three, but the greatest of these is love. So for all of us, happy Valentine's Day, and may the Lord give you His love day by day. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.